The real reason most people never build wealth, what? What if I told you that most people don't fail to build wealth because they are lazy, or because they weren't born into the right family, or because they don't earn enough money? What if the real reason is something far more invisible? Something happening inside their mind every single day. Think about this. Most people spend decades working. They receive thousands of paychecks over a lifetime. Yet when retirement comes, many discover they have very little to show for all those years of effort. Where did it all go? Was it bad luck, a bad economy, or was it something else entirely? Today, we are performing an autopsy on the real reason most people never build wealth. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's a series of psychological patterns so common that most people never notice them until it's too late. By the end of this video, you'll understand why building wealth has far more to do with the way you think than the amount you earn. Before we begin, I want you to answer one simple question. If someone gave you an extra $10,000 today, would your first instinct be to spend it, save it, invest it, or pay off debt? Don't overthink it. Write your honest answer in the comments. Your first instinct reveals more about your financial psychology than you probably realize. Let's start with the biggest misconception of all. Most people believe wealth is built by making one big financial decision, a great investment, a successful business, a lucky opportunity. But that's almost never how wealth is created. Wealth is usually built through hundreds of ordinary decisions that nobody notices. Saving instead of spending, investing instead of waiting, being patient instead of chasing excitement. Unfortunately, our brains don't like ordinary. They crave dramatic results, quick wins, instant gratification. That's why people get excited about winning the lottery but lose interest in investing a small amount every month. One promises excitement, the other promises slow progress. Your brain naturally prefers excitement. Your future bank account prefers consistency. Here's something to think about. What's one small financial habit you know would improve your life if you actually did it every month? Leave it in the comments. Sometimes the smallest habits produce the biggest changes. Now let's talk about one of the most dangerous psychological traps in finance. It's called lifestyle inflation. Imagine someone gets a promotion. Their salary increases. Instead of investing the extra income, they move into a more expensive apartment, buy a nicer car, upgrade their phone, eat at better restaurants. At first, it feels like success. But a few months later, they are still living paycheck to paycheck. Only now, their lifestyle costs much more to maintain. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Your brain quickly adjusts to improvements. The things that once felt luxurious soon become ordinary. Then ordinary no longer feels enough. Without realizing it, you begin chasing a lifestyle instead of building wealth. That's why income alone rarely creates financial freedom. Behavior does. Have you ever noticed that every time you earn a little more, your expenses somehow seem to grow too? If that's happened to you, type lifestyle inflation. You're definitely not the only one. Another hidden reason people never build wealth is that they confuse income with assets. Income is what you earn. Assets are what continue working after you've stopped. Many people spend their entire lives focusing only on increasing income. Few spend enough time building assets. Imagine two friends. Both earn exactly the same salary. One spends every extra dollar improving their lifestyle. The other slowly buys investments that generate future income. 10 years later, their salaries may still be similar. Their wealth won't be. The difference isn't intelligence, it's where they directed their money. Now let's examine another invisible force: present bias. Your brain naturally values today more than tomorrow. Buying something today feels real. Saving for 10 years from now feels abstract. That's why skipping an unnecessary purchase feels painful. But making that purchase rarely feels painful until much later. Your brain discounts future consequences. It's simply trying to maximize immediate comfort. That's excellent for survival, terrible for wealth building. The wealthy often train themselves to ask one question before making financial decisions: will my future self thank me for this? That single question interrupts emotional spending and brings long-term thinking back into the decision. Here's another question for you. When you spend money, do you usually think about today or the person you'll be 10 years from now? I'd genuinely like to know your answer. Now let's talk about identity. Most people think they spend according to their income. In reality, they often spend according to the person they are trying to become. Someone wants to look successful, so they buy status. Someone wants to fit in, so they copy the lifestyle of friends. Someone wants approval, so they spend money to create an image. The tragedy: images don't create wealth, assets do. This is why many wealthy people appear surprisingly ordinary. They are more interested in owning wealth than displaying it. Meanwhile, many people who look wealthy are financing that appearance with debt. Your brain naturally seeks social approval, but wealth often requires making decisions that other people don't immediately understand. Now let's examine something psychologists call the arrival fallacy. This is the belief that everything will change once you reach the next milestone. When I get a raise, when I finish school, when I earn 6 figures, when my business grows, then I'll start investing, then I'll save, then I'll become financially disciplined. But the milestone arrives and nothing changes. Why? Because income doesn't automatically change behavior. Habits do. If you don't learn to manage $1,000 wisely, managing $10,000 becomes even more difficult. Money usually amplifies existing behavior. It rarely transforms it. Let's pause for a second. What's one financial habit you've been telling yourself you'll start someday? Write it in the comments. That someday might be the very thing standing between you and financial freedom. Now let's perform one final financial autopsy. Imagine two people who earn exactly the same amount for 20 years. The first constantly upgrades their lifestyle, makes emotional purchases, waits for the perfect time to invest, believes higher income will eventually solve everything. The second isn't more intelligent. They simply automate investing, live slightly below their means, delay unnecessary upgrades, focus on ownership instead of appearance. 20 years later, the difference isn't just their bank account, it's their freedom. One still has to work, the other finally has a choice. And that's what wealth really is. Not expensive cars, not luxury watches, not impressive salaries. Wealth is having options. The option to say no, the option to spend time with your family, the option to leave a job you dislike, the option to live life on your own terms. If there's one lesson from today's financial autopsy, it's this: most people never build wealth because they are chasing a bigger paycheck, when they should be building better financial behaviors. Your income can change overnight. Your psychology usually doesn't. And unless your psychology changes first, more money often produces the same financial outcome, just on a larger scale. Before we end today's case study, I want to leave you with one final question. If your financial habits stayed exactly the same for the next 10 years, where do you honestly think you'd end up? Don't answer based on hope. Answer based on your current habits. Then read through the comments before adding your own. You might discover that the most powerful financial advice doesn't come from this video. It comes from people honestly reflecting on their own patterns. And if today's psychological autopsy challenge the way you think about money, subscribe to the Wealth Pathologist, because in the next case study, we're going to uncover a psychological trap that silently convinces millions of people they are making smart financial decisions when they're actually moving further away from wealth. Once you recognize that pattern, you'll never look at your money the same way again.